to make this place we're in, called the Big Blue Marble, a better place to live, what would you change? Why?
All right, so I mean, this is gonna sound like a cliche answer because you already know my mother, but I would say the number one thing easily that if I could change would be the way that people raise their children, because
Mm,
most I would say 80% of the problems that everybody goes through when they're older is sourced in the way that they were brought up. So if everybody were to be brought up in a better way, like have better parents or maybe different circumstances, this world will be a much better place. So that would be the number one thing.
I agree. Beautiful. It's beautifully said. Now, you see, I got chills when you were saying that. And now I understand, you've been anointed, you're highly favored, and you're blessed by what is greater than us. I said it from the beginning. Thank God you're right, your mother. Because when I met her in New Jersey, uh, that was the last speaking engagement before COVID for me. Well, no, I had my own event here, but that was my last on the road. And she just kept saying, you need to meet my son. I want you to take a look at my son. And I'm like, oh, another one of those moms. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
boy, was she right. And I just want you to know that you're such an encouraging example of our future, of our greatest resource, which is our young people. And I feel good. None of us is going to live forever. None of us will ever be younger than we are right now. There are many of us, like myself, I'm 58, who have more life behind us than we have in front of us. I'm not going to be 116, right? I doubt it. Well, wait a minute. Maybe I will. I'm just uh, I'll be, oh, look at that prune with legs and arms. Excuse me, that's Lauren.
Yeah, right.
No, but seriously, folks, I want you to know something. I'm grateful to you, Danny. I'm grateful for the example. Uh, I believe that all of us has the same opportunity to be of service, to make an impact, to change lives, to improve this world in any way that we can, as long as it's from the heart. So I'm going to give you a moment here to, first of all, what have you decided? When do we know when your show is going to premiere?
October 15th is the first premiere. October 15th.
Now, what day of the week is that? Oh, that's a Thursday. And at what time?
Today, yeah.
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today. Eastern Standard Time is going to be 6 o'clock.
6 p.m. Okay. Yep. And to find the show, simply go over to, tell them.
Weekly Dose of Dano TV at Facebook.com.
Okay. And to catch up with Dano on all things Daily Dose, simply query or search, that's a fancy word, thank you, I just learned it, at Daily Dose of Dano. And check him out, support him, like all of his pages and social media. We need more people, young people, doing what Danny and others like Danny are doing. So I want you all to get over, please, I'm begging you to get over and support this young man, so young people know that we see them, we support them, and we're proud of them. So Danny, I want to thank you for coming on last minute. He agreed yesterday. We were on a coaching session. He agreed.
Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Danielle Glito here with me today. How you doing, Danielle?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. I'm very excited for our conversation today, and I'm excited for just people getting to know your story. One of the main reasons why we created this platform was because I firmly believe that there are many stories out there of people who just do the work of making the world a better place, and it just helps to know who they are. And so that's why I created this platform. And with that being said, where are you located these days?
I'm in New Jersey, in Ewing, New Jersey, which is a little bit outside of Trenton, New Jersey, so Central
Okay.
Jersey, which is a thing.
Central Jersey is a thing.
Yeah. And most people in New Jersey, well, not most, a lot of people think there's just North and South Jersey, but this is Central Jersey. So there's a real Central. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that set it apart from the other areas?
Oh, that's a good question. So we are like equal distance between Philadelphia and New York. So Central Jersey is a unique place where you'll meet people who call the city, like call it the city, but they're referring to New York. And some people say the city and they're referring to Philadelphia. So that's like a Central Jersey thing, is
Okay.
that not everybody calls the city the same city. I
Wow.
think the city is New York City.
Okay. Got
Where
it.
are you? Where are you? Are you?
Yeah, I'm in New York. I'm actually
Okay.
in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So to me, the city is New York City, but a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
around here like think it's Philadelphia. So that's like a unique Central
Oh.
Jersey thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you
And,
grow up
and you
there?
have equal Yankees, Phillies fans.
Oh, which one are you?
Oh, Yankees.
There you go. That's the only
Yeah.
way to go.
It is. They're winners. Last night, they are advancing now. So that's exciting.
Yep. Good morning, Calvin. Good morning, Christine. I just want to acknowledge everybody who's coming into the building and appreciate you. And thanks for stopping by today. Now, what was it like for you, Danielle, growing up in Jersey?
Interesting. All right. Or not interesting, I guess it's how you look at it. I grew up in a pretty normal suburban neighborhood. I lived in the same house my entire life. I think I was born somewhere else in northern New Jersey, but moved to not far from where I live now when I was, I think, a year and a half old. I have two sisters, one older, one younger. So
Okay.
I am the crazy middle child. And it was, fairly average. I think it's certainly not perfect and not all positive.
Uh-huh.
Definitely, I definitely struggled a lot as a kid, personally.
Okay.
So I think, that's something, not that I don't now as an adult, but I definitely grew up as a very like initially introverted kid who was super interested in school and learning, and I was very shy, which people can't believe now. But I wouldn't like raise my hand. I was not a confident kid, and I would whisper when I spoke in class. So it's weird. I've actually had like that my whole life, these sorts of ups and downs of, when I was really, really young, being really tough, and then in school being very shy, and then going back to sort of being this very like outgoing, rebellious kid. Um, I grew up with, my parents were married until I was about 13.
Okay.
And then they got divorced. So yeah, it was, I don't know how much to get into, because there's so much, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's such a loaded question to say, like, what was your childhood like? And because we all have so much to who we are, and that could be a book in and of itself of like how you were raised and where you grew up. I grew up in a pretty, I can say, like a pretty non-diverse environment. Like it was a very white school district, community. So learning a lot about other cultures has been a priority for me as a grown-up, because as a kid, we were Italian, and that's all I knew for culture,
Right,
like that was
right,
it. And yeah, so.
Okay. So, a big learning experience for everybody here today. My personal thought is that we benefit greatly from listening to the stories of one another, and where you might not have the same experiences as I've had, which would give me a lot to say about certain things. You might have a lot to say about other things that I don't know anything about. And so, I like to explore stuff like that. Did you grow up with pets?
I did. We had dogs, only one at a time. We've never had multiple pets. We had, I mean, I think we had a dog. We had at one point we had a cat, or maybe two cats. We had hamsters that actually like fought to the death.
Right.
Yeah, they were named
Wow.
Peanut Butter and Jelly, and they literally fought each other until they both died. It was the weirdest thing.
You see, those are the types of things that I want to know, because we used to be like, hey, if you get a hamster, the hamster's going to get loose, and then you have hamsters running around your house.
Yeah. No, we had them, they were not very long. We had a bird. I mean, we had my mom, and to this day continues to be, is a really big animal lover too. My dad, not so much. So when we were younger, he was allergic to cats, and so we weren't allowed to have cats, and we really wanted one.
Mhm.
But eventually, we like wore my mom down, and we got a cat anyway. And somehow my dad just dealt with it
Yeah.
with his allergies.
My kids are trying to wear me down right now about pets, and it's not working. But
Oh, I'll wear you
maybe,
down.
maybe you can throw on a cape for them and talk to me about how having a pet helped you out as a kid.
So I don't know that I would say it helped me out as a kid, because I don't.
1
I
point for
think
me. 1
yeah.
point
Well,
for
I
me.
know 1 point for you. Well, only because I think that as a kid, you want a pet because for all the fun reasons and the things you think a pet's going to be like. I'm going to play ball with it and pet it, and not for like the picking up its poop or teaching it to go outside, or like when it wants to play and you don't, taking it for walks. Like there's a lot more responsibility. So I think as a kid, we wanted pets like dogs and cats and things for that reason. For like, we wanted to play with them. We did not
Yeah.
want to take care of them. So, but I can say that like as I got older, I think that right there, that needing to care for them
Mhm.
is very cathartic for people who struggle with taking care of themselves. I was actually talking to a girlfriend of mine about this last night, that, sometimes when you can shift the focus off your own problems and your own, and get out of your head and help somebody else, it gives you such a powerful feeling of being needed, and allows you to kind of get away from the swirling, chaos that's sometimes going on in your mind. So for me, like as a young adult and now as an adult, I think having pets gives me that ability to get outside of myself and know that they need me. And I think it's so critical, especially for people who deal with like, I still struggle with anxiety and depression, and have pretty much my whole life. I think having like someone else to care for is easier than taking care of yourself. And in a way, I think that's kind of self-care, if that
Right.
makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and it sounds like having pets for you, which this is good information for me. Having pets for you, it triggered empathy, emotional
Yeah.
understanding, and willingness to care for others than yourself. And so I can see how that might have impacted your worldview growing up, and how now you're still working in the lives of pets today, and we'll get to that. So.
Yeah.
Couple points for you. Couple points for you.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe that's a point for your kids, that that it'll help them build some empathy. Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Tasha.
Yeah. So, all right. Wow, I learned about that. Okay. Now, what sorts of activities were you into? Were you into any social clubs? What did you do as a kid that made your life fun?
So when I was like elementary school age, I was a huge nerd in a good way. Like I'm all for being a nerd. I loved reading and I loved writing. I would sit in the corner of my dining room with a notebook, because we didn't have laptops then. And I would write for hours and hours and hours. So I loved creating, I loved to create stories, and I loved to create characters, and I loved to like bring them to life on a page. So
Okay.
I was, like I said, I was kind of shy. So I had, a smaller group of friends. I wasn't like the outgoing, and this is elementary school. And that's what I loved. I was obsessed with learning in school, and wanting to be like the best in my class, and, be the teacher's favorite. But as I got older, um, really, to be honest, all I wanted to do was like hang out and drink with my friends.
Okay.
So
Right.
I took like quite the nosedive in high school in terms of my education. I was a pretty difficult teenager. So yeah, then my hobbies were just boys and drinking.
Okay. And I think that a lot of teenagers can relate to that era. Do you have any advice or tips of how to navigate that era safely these days for young people?
I don't know. It's so we kind of talked a little before we started. I have a 12-year-old and 13-year-old daughter, and my girls are very much like I was when I was in elementary school. They are very focused on their school. They have a small group of friends. That all their friends are very good kids. Their families are great families. But every once in a while, when I check their phones, I read their texts, and I see some of the things that the kids are saying to each other. It's harder, I think, now because you don't have as much of an escape from others as I did when I was young. Like you had more ability to walk away and say, I don't want to be part of this. And I think now there's like so much connectivity, and it isn't even often real connectivity because so much of it happens online. I think I am like probably the worst person to ask for advice. And I do, my husband and I talk about this all the time with our own girls, is how do we give them the freedom to experience life? Because I'm not going to pretend like my kids are going to forever be these little angels who don't get in trouble. But keep them safe, So to me, what we do in our house is we are just very open about everything. We have talked about things that weren't talked about in my house. Like we didn't openly and freely talk about peer pressure, and not that I'd use that term with my kids, but like we didn't talk about relationships with boys. When I think about what I allowed to happen to me as a young girl, especially as a teenage girl, by boys, I think that if I had had a different relationship and conversation with my own dad and didn't see what I saw as a child with my parents' relationship, I don't think that it would have been as normal to me. Do you know what I'm saying? So like a lot of how we show up in this world is based upon what's normal to us, what has been normalized. And it's interesting to see as a grown up, because my husband grew up in a very different type of family setting, and also as a man, which is a whole different
dynamic.
Yeah. So for us, it's how do we continue to just have very open dialogue with our kids and give them the freedom to say what they want to say and not shame them or judge them or make them feel guilty. How are like being very intentional with our language. We don't say things like, what boy do you want to date? Or is there a boy, like us making an assumption that you're going to be interested in boys? So I think we're more careful about being open and giving them space to share it with us. But as far as like how I can help them go through this, I don't know that anyone can really prevent people from having to deal with life experiences. Like someday someone's going to hurt my kids and I'm going to want to kill them. And, I think it's how do I teach them or help guide them through being okay with being uncomfortable, because it is part of life and it does build character. The most interesting people I know are people who have struggled, who have overcome adversity, who continue to struggle, who have had challenges in life. Those people to me are the most interesting people, and typically the hardest working, grittiest, bravest. So I try to like reinforce in my kids, like not to shield them too much from life. I don't want life to not happen to them because I'm being too protective. So,
well, I totally agree with the things that you're saying, and it's compelling me to think about how we live in a virtual age today. And just like you said, let's paint a hypothetical picture. Maybe you wrote a note back in the day. You wrote a note, you drew some little flowers on it, and you gave it to one person, and that person dropped it, and now it's circulating around the school. But eventually, somebody's going to take that note and they're going to rip it up. They're going to throw it in the trash. It's going to be done and over with. We now live in an era where the things that you say on the internet, the things that you do and engage in can become a never-ending web of virtual reality. So we got to have all kinds of conversations. We almost got to do a level of surveillance with our kids now. And so, I mean, it's a real big thing. And
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that, we've got to do 3 or 4 times the work these days because of the virtual addition to life itself. And, these kids, they're going to have to be brave like they're being today. And it's going to continue to be a challenge. I believe that.
We do tell our girls all the time, what you put out into the world on the internet is forever. So, if you're going to say something or do something, make sure you want that to be something somebody can go back to 5 years from now, or 5 days from now. So try not to do things in the heat of the moment. But I think, our society also has to get to a place where we're a little bit more forgiving of people's past transgressions. Like I hate this feeling that you did something 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it was stupid. And it doesn't define you as a person, but we've sort of decided it does as a society. And that bothers me. I hate that about anybody, because I don't think it's fair, because we're all humans and we make mistakes, and where you were at a certain point in time and something you said, was that time, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's who you are. Now, if that's all you ever do, I mean, if you are just consistently mean and a bully and you've never changed and you've never admitted it and you're completely not self-aware, yeah, of course I believe that you should be defined by those things. But I think this, like, going back and finding people's old tweets, looking at pictures of them in high school and saying, like, look what somebody did in high school. I mean, in high school, I used to bring alcohol in a what do you call those? Like a sports water bottle to school.
Okay.
And drink vodka in my English class. Like, do I think that somebody should say, well, I don't want to do business with this woman today, this 42-year-old woman who did that when she was 15?
Right.
No, that's ridiculous. I don't do that now. Right. This is not vodka. I think, can we give each other a little bit of slack? Right. That being said, sure, be more careful about what you're putting out there, but don't be so careful that you are afraid to speak out. And that is something very important right now when it comes to, I feel, a lot of social issues. You should feel comfortable to speak out. You shouldn't be afraid that, you're going to get labeled, and so therefore therefore you don't say anything.
Right. So we have this culture going on right now. It's called cancel culture.
I know, I hate it.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's very helpful, because, to your point, people can have epiphanies in life. They can have experiences that change their behaviors. People can get involved in things that really change their outlook on life, and we lose value on what could be if we keep focusing on what we think was.
Right.
So I agree with you. We need to do away with cancel culture, and we need to seek to be people who understand, where somebody's been versus where they are today. Now, like you said, if somebody is still exhibiting behaviors that are not helpful, this many years later, then that's different. But as far as me looking back on your virtual life 10 years ago and saying that's who you are today, it's unfair. And that's the world that our children are going to have to thrive in even more than we have.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but I think though they are going to be part of the change in getting rid of that kind of culture.
Okay.
I think that's why. Yes, I think we want to teach them the same sorts of things, our parents tried to instill in us, which was, respect yourself enough to put out in the world the way you want to be seen. Exactly. And I've always said to them, you can't control what other people think. It's not possible. You can only control what you project, what you put out there. What they think about it is their business.
Right.
That being said, do that responsibly. You know, some people, I've seen people post on social media sometimes like, I am who I am, deal with it. And I'm like, what does that mean? Is that the best you can do? Because yeah, sometimes I am who I am and that person's kind of a jerk because I'm in a bad mood or something terrible happened or I didn't get enough sleep. I think I'm better than that to say, well, that's just who I am. No, that it's not just who I am. It's an action. And so when I make a mistake, I will be the first person to come forward and say, I screwed up here. I'm sorry. I'm going to do better next time and make a conscious effort to do better next time.
Right.
And that's what we try to instill in our kids is, yeah, do your best every day, but don't be so hard on yourself that it's like forever your mark if you screw up, because we're all going to screw up.
Yep, I agree with you on that. And so for the young people out there and the adults out there who might be thinking, hey, it's too late for me to make my life into a better thing. It's never too late.
Never.
No. Watch good media, listen to people's stories, read a book, think about your life, reflect, and then become better. Danielle, before we go into the break, can you talk to us about when you decided to kind of grow out of some of the things that you were doing and become an even higher form of yourself? When did that happen and what provoked it?
So it definitely wasn't like one thing, I think that for anybody who's waiting for one moment to be the change, to really to say, well, when this happens, or if I can do this, then I'm going to ... Because I don't think life is not that. It's not a movie. It isn't a story arc where you find, that the person, the character in the story finally sees the light and decides to stop being a terrible person. For me, there was one moment I will never forget when I was, I believe I was about 16 years old, and I had just come out of a residential treatment facility, and I had gone there after a suicide attempt when I was 15, and it was not a very like serious. It was serious. Any suicide attempt is serious, so I shouldn't say that. I didn't harm myself enough to, really be at risk of dying, but I wanted to die. And I had slit my wrist and I had been in therapy, and my therapist said, listen, you can either agree that you're going to go voluntarily to an inpatient treatment, or we're going to go to a judge and they're going to commit you there. If you get committed, you're kind of stuck, right? So I decided to voluntarily sign myself in, and I had been there for several weeks and learned a lot, and then came home, and I was living with my mother at the time. And in the middle of the night, I woke up, as I would do often, and I was crying, I think, over a stupid guy. And I went into we could go on for days about that. And I went into the bathroom and I cut my legs up again, which is what I would do. I would take like a box cutter or a razor and I would slice it.
Where did you get that from?
I have no idea. I started doing it when I was 13, and I don't know. I look back and like I had journals my whole life, and so I've tried to figure out like where did I get this idea, and I don't know. It wasn't like I read a book or saw a movie. I think that I had such a deep self-hatred and desire to like harm myself because I thought I don't know. I thought I deserved it. I thought I was this terrible, ugly, too skinny. My boyfriend at the time was, and I always wonder if like he'll watch these because I'm friends with him on Facebook. I do, because I'm like, dude, and I don't judge him for that now. Like, he's a great guy. He has a kid. He's, I shouldn't say he's a great guy. I don't know, but he seems to be on social media. But anyway, so he was very mean to me. He'd call me terrible names. He would have his friends call me and call me terrible names. And I was just very insecure, and that was kind of my world. And I thought, well, I'm ugly and I'm skinny and this boy hates me and I hate myself. And that was how I took it out on myself, as I just cut up my legs. So I did that for many years. And then this particular night when I had come out of the hospital, or the treatment facility, I was in the bathroom cutting my leg, and my mom walked in, and she said, you know what? Cut your legs. Go for it. I'm tired. And I was like, wait, she's not going to sit here and like tell me how I shouldn't do this? She's not going to get mad. She's not going to yell at me. Like, it really blew my mind. And she just walked out. And it was the first time that I kind of looked at what I was doing and was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like, because I don't know if I was consciously doing it for attention, but it felt like in that moment that I realized I wasn't getting that reaction anymore. And it's not that I stopped that day, like, and never did it again, because I continued to cut myself till I was about 19 years old. But I certainly thought more about the reason. Whereas before it was just like sadness, depression, tears, pain, get something sharp and just hack at it, you know? And then that shifted as my mindset sort of started to change about trying to understand why I was doing this.
Mm-hmm. That's the part where I want us to shift the conversation, because I know people near and dear to me, and young people that I've worked with in the past who cut themselves. And, we could be having a great conversation and you glance over at an arm or a leg and you can see the cuts, and it provokes a very emotional response from me, because I'm wondering what is wrong under there. What is going on under this conversation that I really need to know about? Let me change my stance and ask different and deeper questions. Let me ask deeper questions. So I want to know, did anything help you to start treating yourself better?
It's gonna sound like kind of like my husband saved me, but I will say, like, I met my now husband when I was 16. We became good friends. We started dating when I was 19, and just knowing him and how good he is, like, just innately good. Like, he's just a good person. He's not trying to be good. He just is good, and he's genuine. And when I met him and fell in love with him, and he loved me and loved me even with this what I thought was unlovable, problem, it started to make me see that, well, maybe I'm not so bad, because if this wonderful, and I'm not saying your self-worth should be measured by somebody else's opinion of you at all. But what I think it did was it got me to start seeing the power behind my pain, rather than seeing it as a weakness. Mm-hmm. He saw everything about me as beautiful and fun, and he saw, like, past all of the things that I thought defined who I was. And I think that it started to help me do that. That and my mom. My mother is, like, by far the greatest human being that ever walked the earth. And she had been dealing with her own terrible relationship with my dad, which I think made it very hard for her to be as present with us then as she wanted to be. But as I got older and she got out of that marriage and she was in a happy relationship and she was happy with herself, seeing her also start to love herself and her being that constant, which is why, I'm so passionate about helping kids who have had to navigate this system, is I know how important that constant was, how it saved me so very much, knowing that no matter what, no matter how ugly I felt inside and outside, I had a champion who loved me through it. So I think that it was, about that time, about 19 years old, when I met and started dating my husband, that I started to see myself in a different light and see myself in the way he did. And I would be lying if I said that it's over and done with. I mean, there are certainly still days where I am, like, in my bed and I get all in my head and I think I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be this is so dumb. I know, because I'm 42, like, grow up already, but I still think sometimes, like, I'm not in good enough shape. I'm never going to be the pretty one. I'm never going to be the person who, is as successful as I want to be. Like, and I get into my head and I get stuck. But because I've taught myself to recognize that that is a point in time and it's not my always reality, it's my right now, I'm able to work through it.
You know
And
what?
I'm not afraid anymore to say this out loud and to ask somebody for help, or to not, or to say I need some space right now because I got to deal with this, you know?
What you've done today is absolutely big, and it's helpful. You know, your willingness to be real is not common.
I know. Believe me. Ugh.
I can't tell you enough how many conversations I've had with people who seem to be established in life, who seem to have achieved some great things, or at least just have a stable home life, who are not willing to just be real.
Yeah.
We are not perfect people living in perfect bubbles, and it's not about whether you live in the suburbs or in the inner city. It's about the human experiences that we all have, the experiences of inadequacy, insecurity,
Yeah.
even inferiority that we all have to overcome. It's not unique to any one of us, but what makes us unique is our ability to be or our willingness to be transparent about it.
Yeah. Well, I think
Everybody's
that
not transparent about it.
yeah, well, and I think that, and also our willingness to be self-aware and to see our own privilege in, like, for me, I do remind myself all of that I'm feeling, and that obviously is about me. The world isn't about me. There's a ton of other people who feel this way and sadly are not in a position in life, whether it's because of what they were born into or where they currently are, that can freely express this and be accepted. You know, like, I get it. I am I live in a big house in a really nice area. I'm a white lady. I get it. You know, like, I can share and say things with a lot of privilege that other people can't do. And what bothers me more, it bothers me when people aren't real, but it also bothers me when people don't recognize that even being able to be that real is a privilege.
So,
And so,
you know what? I two things before we go to break, because we're getting ready
yeah,
to
no,
go
you
to
gotta
break.
go to break. So,
I'm loving this conversation. You are phenomenal. The first thing I want to say for the young ladies and the young men out there, or the grown women and the grown men out there who is still an unfinished circuit. You're an unfinished circuit. Now, in order for a circuit to work properly, it has to be finished. It has to be closed. It has to be completed. For those of you who are still an open circuit out there, you're open because you didn't see an effective relationship between your parents. You're open because you didn't have proper family dynamics at home. And so now you need an effective companionship out there in the world somewhere, and you're seeking that. I want to let you know it's okay if you are looking for completion with a companion. That's why we're in this world, is to find people who can help us to complete ourselves so that we can then be whole and so that we can then be productive in the community. So I want to commend you, and I want to encourage you to find a significant other who can help you to achieve a sense of therapy in your life so that you can be the best that you can possibly be. The next thing that I want to say is that Danielle is a prime example of taking whatever privilege you may think that you have and using it to the fullest extent of your capabilities. I appreciate that. Like I've said, there are a lot of people who I've had conversations with, who I've seen from afar, who could be doing more.
yeah.
With their privilege, with their position, and with that which they have. You are a prime example of how people could be doing more. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Danielle Glito here in the building with us, and we're going somewhere with this. We'll be right back after this brief message. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, and sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network. And we're back. Danielle, how you feeling out there?
Good. You?
I'm doing good. So now, after it was all said and done, you decided to do some pretty amazing things in this world. And one of them was that you created a foundation. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Joe and I got married in 2005, and about a year. Yeah, it's been 15 years.
Whoa.
So yeah, it's awesome. So when we got married, we decided we wanted to adopt a child to start our family, and we looked into all the different ways to adopt and learned about foster care. And when we found out just how many children were in care and struggling in the system, we decided we wanted to become foster parents. So that the Pride training took us about a year. We didn't know much about foster care going into it, learned a ton, became foster parents in 2006. And I think just my whole life changed when the first foster child entered our home. It was like when I became mom, that moment of like that kid came in. His name was Jose. He was an 18-month-old little boy. He had just been removed from his parents because they were abusing his brother. Something in me just kind of clicked. Like I didn't grow up thinking like, oh, I can't wait to be a mom. I wasn't, I didn't have that mindset. All of a sudden, like that mama bear, like just activated. And I vowed from that point forward, I'm going to do all I can for these children, and not just directly for them in caring for them in our home, but what really struck me was how few of our friends and family had any idea what foster care even was, or that you could adopt, or what the process was like, or what the children had been going through. And so I felt like, again, here's an opportunity where you're coming. I'm living in a different space. How do I tell more of these people that don't know about this system? And so I became the person who talked about foster care at every family gathering, and
Wow.
started being annoying, I'm sure. But then we ended up, the boys we had, so we had Jose, then we had Antonio, and then we had another like little infant, all got reunified or moved to family members' homes. And then we kind of put our home on hold because it was really it was challenging. It was heartbreaking because they're gone and I'll never know how they do. And I loved them. And, of course I'm happy for them. I want the outcome to be that they are where they are being loved and cared for, to where they should be. And so, but my own pain was I miss them, and I want to make sure that They know that I'm always here if things don't work out, and you can't really, back then, couldn't really be that resource. So we took a little bit of a break. We decided we were going to try to get pregnant. That wasn't working out. But then we got a phone call about my daughter Mia now. She was 3 days old. They were placing her in a home with a goal of adoption. She came to us on our anniversary on September 17th, 2007, 3 days old. And then 2 weeks after that, I found out I was pregnant with Liliana. And we,
Wow.
yeah, so we were like instant now.
Hold up. Let's slow it down because this is some very inspirational stuff that you're saying right now. And I know just how inspirational it is because I can relate. For those of you who might not know, I spent years of my life in foster care before I was adopted as a teenager, and my life was forever changed. And so to hear that you decided to become a foster parent, first, I want to take it back there and just, remind us and teach us all about the power of foster care and the power of adoption. We have about 444,000 youth in a foster care system today. And I think that we will be remiss as millions of adults in America if we're looking for a sense of purpose and we're looking for a way to just grow as a human being, and we don't look at foster care as an option or adoption as an option to achieve that. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think that people need to, again, when you decide to foster, or even if you're like kind of thinking about it, it isn't about you, right? So like when we became foster parents, we made it initially about us. We want a family. We want to start a family. Well, let's go and adopt a child that needs a family. We had no idea just how much we needed that child too, and how much we would learn, because as we moved through the system and we saw all these kids that were moving around, it blew me away how many people I knew who could provide the care, and their decision not to is because I think it boils down to one thing. And I think this one thing actually is a big thing when it comes to a lot of sensitive issues: an unwillingness to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to say, I'm uncomfortable having a conversation about X, but I'm going to have it anyway. That's the brave thing to do, is to be okay with being uncomfortable. And I think that is where with foster care, I wish people would just be open and be okay with being uncomfortable. If you don't want to be a foster parent because you're afraid you're going to get too attached, let's talk about that. Let's talk about why that's going to be okay, because it isn't about your pain in missing that child. It's about being there at a point in time, which you can do for a child who needs you. And then if that ultimate best thing is for them to be reunified, it isn't about your pain. It's about their path.
Right.
And so you have to flip your perspective and say, yeah, it's okay that it hurts, and let it hurt. But be okay with the uncomfortable feeling of having to say, I wasn't I was just part of their story. That's okay.
Right.
So yeah, I think, we have to do a better job of encouraging people to get uncomfortable. And also, to talk about the struggles they're afraid they're going to face. Like, well, there's the stigma that like kids in care, they're going to come in and they have all these mental health issues, and they have, they're violent, or they've been abused. And so they're going to bring that into my house. And first of all, like, oh, it's okay to say that out loud if that's how you feel. Say that. Yep. Let's talk about it. Yep. And here's the thing I'm going to say. I was not in foster care. I have mental health issues. I was a nightmare to raise, I'm sure. I deserved that. These kids do too.
That's right. So, and also,
most teenagers are a pain in the butt. Period. Yep. I don't care where you came from.
Yep.
So how do we have this same conversation you and I just had before about navigating our children through pain and through difficulty, and leaving them space to still live, but helping to guide them? How do we have that conversation and say it's the same thing applies to children in foster care? Exactly. I'm not talking, if we're talking about truly unsafe behaviors towards other children in the home, I can understand that fear and maybe your pause on bringing a child into your home. But most of the time, what we're talking about is kids needing a constant and an advocate. A lot of these kids are over medicated.
That's right.
Over medicated. And
That's
so
right.
you've got combinations of drugs happening. I took a young girl once. She ran away from foster care. This was just a few years ago. And her and I had sort of formed a bond when she was in a group home. She subsequently went from a group home to a treatment home, and she ran away. When she ran away, she was gone for several days. I knew she was gone, and the state wouldn't tell me she was gone, but I knew she was gone. I knew because somebody else in the system told me.
Mhm.
And I had a feeling she was going to show up at my office, and she did. 9:30 one night, this girl shows up at my office. She's 16 years old, 15 years old at the time. She shows up, and she's manic. I mean, she's going from like, I think there's aliens in that plant, to begging me not to leave her, to wanting to study for an SAT. She was all over the place. She wanted me to go with her to the hospital with the emergency response unit that came. And I did. And I went into intake with her. Do you know that she was on 15 medications?
Yeah, I know.
15.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here and I'm saying, this is the problem, is if I were her foster parent or her parent, I would be able to be in that room and say, this is nonsense.
Yep.
Why is she on so many drugs?
You know what? That brings me to this point, is that we all need to be reminded of the huge population of youth that are in foster care out there. We need to play our part in protecting them.
Yes.
In edifying them, building them up, and helping them. When you decide to foster and a young person or children have to leave your home, it's not the end. In your case, you decided to create a foundation so that you could keep helping them out. That young man, Antonio, he was in your house, he left, but let's say Antonio, he becomes a high school kid, and his one simple wish is a pair of sneakers or a new car so he can graduate from high school with a new car. He says, you know what, I can go to this foundation, one simple wish. Guess who started it? The woman who meant so much to me in my life when I was younger. And that's what you did. That's who you are. And that's what we're learning from today. Now, when we were in pre-production, Danielle, I did something you didn't know about, but you're going to find out. And I found a video of your mission and your organization, and I'd like to play that. Is that all right?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Give me 1 second. While I'm doing this, guys, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in today, being a part of this discussion, being a part of this story, because it's important. It's very important. Check this out.
It's not been easy. Since I've been in foster care, it's not been easy. I always wanted to be a veterinarian, but it just never came around to that. Animals were my dream, my passion, my goal. They were my first things I really dreamed of doing. That was my childhood dream.
I've been in foster care since I was 5, and I was adopted for a long time, but when I got put back into foster care when I was 13, I really saw that there was such a need for teenagers. There was things that they needed. They constantly needed things. There was a constant need, and there wasn't really anyone to fulfill that.
We had a child who was about 18 months old, was our first child. He had on a onesie and a winter coat that was probably 5 sizes too big for him. That's how he was dropped off at our house. You know, no clothing, no personal care items, nothing, no diapers, no nothing. There's a lot of other things that these kids need, which is these personal care items. And I think that's the beauty of the Ohana Project through One Simple Wish.
What were we looking at there? Can you explain? We got 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. Well, my husband with no beard, which is horrifying. Yeah, so One Simple Wish is, now an organization. It's an online platform that lets anyone who's ever experienced foster care make simple wishes, and they go through their caseworker if they have one still, or who are our community partners, or they can contact us directly, and then we go back and do the legwork to confirm time and care. But it's a platform that's really about listening. And I think, you saw that there. That was Shayla and Ronald. And I still see Ronald and talk to Ronald. He lived with us for a time as well. it's really about allowing young people to tell us what they need, what they want, what will bring them joy, and then letting the community meet those needs in small ways. And I think of it as an open window to the system. Come in, take a seat, even if it's brief, do something, and let this be the start of your involvement. And what we find is that most people keep coming back to help. We have had people who've come back and told us years later they've decided to be foster parents, they've adopted, they've been mentors. So I think that we have a beautiful conversation starter that makes it easy and accessible. And it's for everyone. The wishes are $10 to $500, but we've also done big wishes that exceed $5,000. And we're only continuing to grow. We help right now about 15 to 20,000 kids a year, and our goal for the next 12 months is to increase that to 50,000.
Wow.
We've got some pretty cool projects in the works right now, so I encourage people, to check out the site, go there, find out about our mission, and tell us what you think. I mean, we're very transparent. We have a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator. Obviously, I'm very transparent. People can say anything to me, and it's a way to get started. It's a simple way to get started. It's overwhelming, I think, to dive in and like tomorrow become a foster parent. This is a way to, I love you, Kim. This is a way to just kind of dip your toe, read the stories of these young people. Stop looking at statistics. Statistics aren't human beings. I mean, they represent them, but they're not them. Read our kids' stories. Find one that resonates with you. Make their wish come true. Write them a note of encouragement. Because honestly, like I said, this to me is about doing something. To me, the worst thing you can do is nothing. Do something.
Absolutely.
One simple wish is a good start.
Absolutely. And for those people who are looking to contact you to learn more or to get involved, they just go to the One Simple Wish website.
Yeah, then go to the site, and then if they click on about, you can see our team members. You can contact any member of our team. You can contact us through social media. We're a very open, accessible group. We're a small group of all women right now, but we're working on it. We're trying. We're working on it. But
can you take a few seconds and just talk to young adults out there who are new in the nonprofit space? They want to make a difference. They're trying to really get some legs on their legacy, and they just need a word from you today. Can you just speak to them for a couple seconds?
Yeah, it's going to be hard. It's hard work. You cannot give up. If this is your dream and this is what you want, you will know, because you will wake up every day and not be able to not do this. And if you have that feeling about something, it is your obligation to this world to keep trying and listening. Go and find somebody doing what you want to do and listen to them. They've done it already. So, take their advice. Take their advice, work alongside them, volunteer for organizations that have missions similar to what you're trying to start, and don't be afraid to ask a million questions. But most importantly, don't give up when you have setbacks. Because if this is your passion, and when it's your passion, it is literally waking up and I have to do this. You can't give up. You owe it to yourself.
Danielle Glito, I want to let you know that I've listened to your journey today. I have been inspired by your willingness to share your journey. I think that you did a phenomenal job. I want to let you know that I'm giving you your crown today while you're still living. I respect the work that you're doing for young people clear across America. It's an example of what needs to be done. I can't say enough how much my heart is in this fight and in this journey to help the youth in foster care, 400,000 youth in foster care. I've been in it. People in our comment section have been in it. And so we're all in this together. I want to let you know that you, Danielle Glito, you are America's next motivator.